Hey everybody, I'm Katrina from In Cat We Trust, and we have another episode of Kicking Back with Cat. Here with me today, I have Alexis Windsor. Hope I pronounced that right. How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. That wasn't a bad pronunciation. It's Windsor.
Windsor?
Windsor, yeah.
Okay.
like the British royal family name.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I know before the podcast, you told me you was training before to do wrestling. So how was that for you? Like in regards to training and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I wish it was something I could still continue doing. I mean, I'm not ruling it out completely. It's just, it was a time commitment thing that stopped me from being able to go to training as regularly as I wanted to. And if I do something, I always want to give it like 100%. I don't like just, not giving it my all, really. So that was part of the frustration. So I chose to take a step back and still be involved with Elevate, but not so much the training. But I had the most fun when I was actually training in the ring. I love learning new things. I love the physicality of it. The acting, the character, the drama side of it as well was always great. Like putting a story together and things like that, watching people being able to do that. But yeah, I just always had immense fun when I was training, 100%.
Oh, that's awesome. Would you say, because I know you said you do refereeing now, would you say the training is different? Because I know some referees have to do it in school as well, like a training school for this.
Yeah.
Would you say that's like a lot different from wrestling, or is it easier, harder?
I mean, it's just a completely different role. You still have to know so much about the business and how wrestling works. I think it's almost an advantage that I had, a number of months actually training before then I opted to move to refereeing, within the wrestling circle, just because I've got so much more knowledge about like how shows are put together, what happens in the ring. So I am still, I still attend training when I can, and I certainly try to more up to when we have shows, obviously, because it's great that those are happening again now. And I've still got so much to learn from that perspective. So definitely still training. I think everyone can always, improve on their craft and learn things. So I'm still learning from, the more experienced guys at Elevate 100%. I've only, I've done one show where I've refed. So hopefully the next one coming up as well. So it's still very early on in my kind of career from that perspective.
Oh, nice. I was about to actually have you had a favorite match that you refed, but that's cool if you're like, this is like
the one that I refed. I tell a lie. There was a show before where I did like a rumble match, so I was more on the outside of the ring. But the last show that we did in Mississippi, I actually was in the ring. It was just me reffing, a match between two wrestlers, and that was really that was really great. So yeah, that's my favorite match that I've reffed.
That's cool.
By default.
When would you say, like, I feel most people who's involved with wrestling in some capacity, you love it itself, like as far as like the thing that wrestling brings as a fan, if you're working in it, it's always that one thing. So what was it for you that you was like, you know what, I wouldn't mind having wrestling as something I can do as like a job or like a career or something like that?
So I've always been into wrestling, I would say, since I was like in my teens, kind of mid to late teens. I got into watching wrestling, so it's always something that I've really loved. I grew up in England, as you can probably tell, so I don't know how at that sort of in that era, because I grew up watching wrestling in like the early 2000s. That's when, like late 90s, early 2000s, that's when I really got into it. And I don't know whether there was many opportunities over in England at that time as like there are now, compared to the US. So I'd never really considered it as something that I wanted to do. I was always doing so much else. I've always got like 50 hobbies that I'm doing. That's an actual thing. So it really wasn't until what year are we in? So 2019 was when I started training. And I knew quite a few wrestlers in like the local area through my late husband, because he was a photographer. So he was a photographer for some of the local wrestling shows. So I used to go with him, go and watch the shows, help set up when he'd do like promo pics and stuff like that. I'd like be the assistant that was doing that. And then I kept in touch with some of them after he died. Sorry, this isn't meant to be miserable. But
no worries.
But I kept in touch with them, and one time we were just out, grabbing a couple of beers, and they were like, "Have you ever thought about training?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I have, but I think it's a bit late for me now. I've never really considered doing it." And they were like, "Well, why don't you just come down and try?" So I did, and that was it. And then I trained pre-shows with a couple of people that I know, and then sort of over COVID time, obviously things shut down, so that kind of put some brakes on what I was doing from that perspective. And then obviously I joined Elevate after that, just because I wanted somewhere more regular to go to train mainly.
Oh, nice. That's so funny that it's like so close. Like that's like what, 2 years ago? And
2 years. Yeah.
That's
I know. I'm very new, like very, very new.
Yeah, I mean, I was a wrestling fan, I want to say, since like I was like 8 or so because of my grandma.
Okay.
But I didn't start getting into like as far as like entering and stuff until last year when I was like, I do love wrestling. I do love watching wrestling, and COVID kind of took a lot away from me. So I was like, well, I have wrestling. So I can do something with my love for wrestling. So I totally understand being new. I feel like I'm really new in all of this as well. So.
Yeah. That's it. It's one of those things that like, I'm almost kind of frustrated with myself because I've always loved wrestling. I've always watched wrestling, on the TV, went to live shows because they'd come over to England, and do normally twice a year and do like house shows and like Raw and SmackDown when it was, WWE was obviously who came over. And then we've had like local independent, wrestling around England as well. So I'd always go to that, but I don't know. It just was never a thing that I thought I could do that. Yeah. I think mainly because I was probably doing so many other things. So it never really entered my head. And it wasn't until someone planted that seed and I was like, you know what, I could do that. So kind of a little bit frustration that I sort of didn't find it earlier on, but that's just one of those things. I'm glad I did find it, anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy to be reffing. I think that's exciting. I think I can still bring my own flair to being a ref.
Would you say, like, sometimes certain referees kind of get involved in wrestling storylines? You kind of see them just a little bit involved. What are your thoughts on, like, referees kind of being a part of the storyline? Do you think it should solely be just refereeing, or that it's okay to kind of help the storyline along if it works?
I think if it works, yes. I think it has to add to it. I don't think it should just be something that's done for the sake of doing it. Because really, when it comes down to it, it's about what does it add to the the storyline. I would love to do it. I mean, that would kind of fulfill a little bit for me that I've not been able to actually get in the ring fully. Not saying it will never happen, but my choice a couple of months ago was to step back and just ref. So I would love nothing more than if I was interfered in a match or something happened and I don't know, I took a bump, someone put me through a table, something like that, I would get that would be secretly on the inside like, yes.
Would you say taking a wrestling bump is like hard? I hear so many different stories about like taking a bump, and since you've done both, training and while you had like wrestling, still taking a bump is taking a bump. Would you say that's something hard to do, like being able to take that bump and still kind of get up?
I mean, I've always done like a lot of physical sports. I play roller derby. I did karate and jiu jitsu when I was younger. So I've done like a lot of stuff like that. Not quite the same, but you know, I had at least a little bit of experience in kind of falling, I guess, for want of a better word. I don't think anything quite prepares you though when you're like taking a bump from a height, and the way like the breath just sort of leaves your body, and
Yes.
so always remember, breathe out when you land, breathe out.
You said you do roller derby. That's super cool. How did you get into that? That's awesome.
I just kind of got into that by accident as well. This seems to be like the story of my life. This was when I was in England, and I was just like looking for a new hobby to do. And where I lived, like the local team just had like an advertisement for them, and I was like, oh, I'm going to give that a go. And so I just turned up like to practice one time. You know, I let them know I was going. I was like, hey, can I come and try it out? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. And I'd never roller skated before, so I had to learn how to skate, but I picked that up pretty quickly, and then learned to play roller derby. So I've done that for like 8 years now, 9 years, maybe 9 years. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I had more time sort of over COVID, like 2019, I retired from roller derby and went to rest, started wrestling, and then COVID happened. So I had a lot more time to train from a wrestling perspective. But obviously when roller derby, you know, when skating, you know, when we're able to do that now more and train, then wrestling obviously just had to take a back seat because there's just unfortunately not enough hours in the day. If someone could work out cloning and I could like clone myself, that would be great. I'd really like that.
No, I hear you. It's not enough time in a day. I do like 20 million things, and I'm like, how?
Same.
Like so much other like things I have to do on a normal basis, and I'm just I don't even know how I'm still going. But yeah, totally understand. When did you start doing jiu-jitsu? Because I always find it cool when people know how to do that in general, but like when women can do that, I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. Like I want to learn to do that.
I was like 5 or something. My parents like started me off really young. So I did that from like the age, I was young anyway. I mean, I don't really remember because I was that young, but somewhere between like 5, 6, 7, something like that. And I did that up until basically I moved away to college. So I did that until I was like 17, 18, I think. That was super fun as well.
No, that seems fun. I wanted to learn something like jiu-jitsu or something, but I'm like, you know, you have to be like really dedicated to something like that. And I'm like, do I have time to be like really dedicated to making sure I learn what I need to learn? So
what I have learned is, I mean, it's great to have multiple hobbies, but especially if you're learning something, it's hard if you're having to like split your time and dedicate it across many different things, which, you know, I know is what I said before, but if I'd have been further on, like in my wrestling career, it may have been a little bit different, but I was still, you know, learning, learning moves, learning, you know, in-ring stuff, learning the business. And the biggest thing I think that I was annoyed with myself about is that I didn't really have time to develop my character, because that is such a huge part of you know, wrestling. Yes, it's the physical aspect as well, but what gets across is like your character, your persona, how you sell, you know, what's happening in the ring. And that's really what I needed to dedicate my time to. And that's what I struggled to dedicate my time to. So, and yeah, difficult because I feel like being British, I kind of like was semi-made already, you know, I kind of had like a way in. It's like, well, hey, you're just going to be British and everyone's going to hate you. So
what would you, if like, I guess when you get back to wrestling as like a wrestler, what would you want your gimmick to be? Like for that persona to like, oh, this is her, like this is her. What would you want that to be?
Definitely a heel. I mean, I don't think there's any way other than, you know, other than that I could be. I mean, I'm a huge fan of William Regal. I just think he's like, I could watch him talk all the time. And while I certainly don't want to like, you know, I want to make something my own and I don't want to like rip anyone off. I would definitely take elements of like his character in there, but probably less Regal, even though I took the name Windsor as my wrestling character name. And I'm still going to use that, you know, as a ref and things. So maybe less Regal. You know, I am quite alternative. I have a lot of tattoos. I have weird dark purple hair, things like that. So I think I would have to be a little bit more like, you know, punk rockish kind of goth kind of deal going on. So something along those lines. Hated though, absolutely hated.
You know, I can see it though. I can see like super goth and then like have that like that. He was like a sneaky heel at an extent. So like I can see it working. I definitely like feel like you can get people behind that.
I just love how he used his words. I mean, that's the main thing to me that I really like. And I would love, you know, if I was doing it, I would emulate something along those lines. He could just cut somebody down with words, but with very British words as well. You know, things that maybe people might not even understand, but that kind of added to it. You know, calling people like a miserable little twit or whatever. Just something. Sunshine. He always used to call everybody sunshine. So he said everything with a lot of like integrity, but you still kind of, he was still like looked down his nose at you and everything like that. So definitely an element of that, but maybe just like a little bit more. Sorry, I keep moving the camera. A little bit more rough around the edges, kind of thing. You know, a bit grittier, bit more. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I totally can see that. Like that would be cool to see. So it's just super. Like I'm a firm believer of like I can talk to people in a way that I could probably hurt without having to curse or anything. Just like my words. So I love when people can do that. Like tell them about themselves, which is a bunch of words.
Yeah. But again, that's such a huge part of wrestling, which, you know, I've always loved wrestling, watched it and everything like that, but I don't think I really understood until I started training with Elevate and realizing how much, you know, of the promo work and the character development and everything like that, you know, how important that is, you know, to everything moving forward. 100%.
Who would you say is your favorite wrestler of all time? And what is your favorite wrestling match of all time?
Oh, they kind of both feature the same people, which is, you know, maybe something that everybody would say, but I've got to go back to a wrestler. He was in a tag team, but a wrestler that really got me into wrestling when I was younger, which is Jeff Hardy. Like I used to dress like him. I was like obsessed with him. Both in like, you know, his character, his style, like everything he wore, his wrestling style as well. Like I could never do the dangerous stuff that he does, but absolutely amazing. Like the swanton off the ladder. Oh my goodness, like the stuff that he put his body through. But I used to have the gloves that I wore, like the purple and black ones. I had my hair like all weird colors and everything. So yeah, he was like he was maybe not the best technical wrestler, obviously, but what really got me into wrestling, and you know, his whole character, you know, he just took all the risks, you know, no holds barred, took things to the extreme, you know, obviously. So definitely he was my favorite. You know, will be my favorite. And so my favorite match would be the first TLC that they did with Edge and Christian and the Dudleys. You know, that would be my favorite because I was just like, what is this? Never seen anything like it before. And everything since then, I mean, it's just, the second one was great as well. But everything, like, it was just so innovative at the time. You know, I'd never seen anything like that before. The things that they put their bodies through, and that just raised the bar so much for people to be like, okay. Like I can't remember what match came after that at the pay-per-view, but I would have hated to have followed that match.
I love Jeopardy. So I totally hear you. That he was the person. Like Shawn Michaels introduced me to wrestling, but Jeff Hardy got my obsession going. Like,
Yes. Okay.
obsessed with wrestling. So I
Yeah.
totally understand.
Yeah. Chris Jericho was like the one who I maybe saw first. Like he's the one who maybe got me into wrestling, but it was then the Hardy Boys and everything to do with that that like got me hooked. But yeah, Chris Jericho was probably one of the first, really, and I still think he's amazing. I mean, any kind of twist on his persona that he does is just brilliant. He's just gold on the mic, and this man can say nothing wrong at all. It's just like, oh my god. But yeah, when I first got into wrestling, it was him going into like the whole Y2J thing, and yeah, I never really watched WCW. I think just our TV access over in England, that's like all I had. We had, WWE. I used to go around and watch it at a friend's house because we didn't have it at my house on whatever like cable networks we had. So I had to go around to a friend's house to watch it. And so I remember that. And having all his DVDs as well. I don't like the DVDs.
That was so mean. Oh man. Oh yeah, I was really obsessed with Jeff Hardy. It was bad. Like I told my mom recently, I'm like, Mom, I am so sorry. Like I probably got on your last nerve with the amount of like obsessiveness it was like at the Hardy Boys. Like I liked Matt, but Jeff was like a whole different level of like just out there. And I'm like, I love that he's just so crazy and he just does whatever. He didn't care. He was just himself, and I love that about him. So like he's literally the reason why I'm a writer, kind of, because like my very first public story was like a fan fiction about Jeff Hardy, and I was like, so my first public work was a Jeff Hardy story. And I'm like, so Jeff, I thank you for like writing purposes, like totally.
It's just his creativity as well. I'm going to sound like the biggest Jeff Hardy nerd and fangirl on this podcast, but his like creativity, he was just so different. I mean, I'm very different. So I think that's what I identified in him. And I think maybe that's what, for a lot of people, they find someone that they can identify something of themselves in their favorite wrestler, and maybe that's what it was about Jeff Hardy for me. He didn't look like everybody else, he didn't act like everybody else, so I was like, okay, it's all right to be different, and have weird colored hair and wear alternative clothes and things like that. So yeah,
definitely agree with Jeff Hardy. He's amazing.
Always Jeff Hardy in my heart. Always Jeff Hardy.
He's absolutely amazing. I love him. He's like my top. Like I want to say like number 2, only because Shawn Michaels was my first. Because he's on it. But yes, definitely top 5. He's amazing. Just love him.
yeah. That's so cool that you like him as well. That's great. I love it.
What is something that you haven't done in wrestling, but you want to see yourself do at some point in the future?
You see, for me, I would love, and again, I've made my own decision stepping back, but I would love to have been able to have a match. So, I would like to not rule that out, I would say. That would be, I mean, I would definitely say that. If that's not a thing, if I stay with reffing, I would like to just, what we were talking about before with whether a ref should be like part of the match and have an involvement. I would love to do something like that. I would love for people to just either, not just be, well, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Obviously the ref is very impartial, or should be very impartial.
Yeah.
When they're in the ring, the focus should be on the wrestlers, and that's 100% what it should be like. So I would just like to have a moment where, probably booed. It's going to be booed. But I would, get some heat or something happen in the ring where I could hear people like booing me, chanting me. I took some kind of bump. I had some involvement where people just looked and like, oh, damn, kind of thing. So that's really what I would like. I've had an opportunity, trying to think when it was now. I want to say November last. Yeah, it was November last year. I think I mentioned to you before that I was training with a couple of local wrestlers before I moved to Elevate. So I moved to Elevate in July or August 2020. And so prior to that, from like the beginning of 2020, I was training with a couple of local wrestlers in Louisiana, and we could only get to train like before a show. So they'd have a show somewhere, I'd go along with them. We'd have like an hour or so in the ring beforehand, and then I'd stay and like help out at the show and things like that. One of them was Hannibal Jackson. He was my trainer. He passed away in end of October last year. So we had a memorial show for him. I think it was in Mississippi last year, and I got to go out with Beautiful Bobby and Preston Bentley. So I got to accompany Beautiful Bobby to the ring, and I didn't even have to do anything, just because Beautiful Bobby is a heel and I went out with him and Preston. I just got booed like straight away. All I did was like, walk to the ring with him. I was on the side of the ring. I got to like interfere a little bit in the, in the match and help him win and that sort of thing. I got to give Mustang Mike a low blow and like get out of the ring. And it was like super fun. And I got booed, and it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I got so much hate, but inside I was like trying not to smile at the fact that it made me so happy. So I really enjoyed that. And I'd like to, I guess what I mean is I'd like to do that, but with me having like my character, whether that's like a ref or a wrestler. Yeah. Something like that would be great. And I think just to stay involved in, in the business in some way. I like being involved in things. That's why I have so many hobbies. So yeah, just to stay involved, and help, help with Elevate, help them grow, help however I can across the wrestling business locally. Definitely.
Okay, I love that answer. It's great. So is there anything you would like to promote to the audience? Anything they should check out that you want to share?
Obviously we have our Elevate show coming up. I'm terrible with dates, so off the top of my head, I want to say July 24th, and I hope that that's the right date, because I'm really terrible with dates. I'm like, is it June? Is it July? I don't know. So that's like the main thing to get across and promote. It's our first show back in Louisiana in, oh my goodness, I don't even know how long. Pre-COVID, so beginning of 2020 would have been the last time. I can't remember the month. So this is a big thing for Louisiana in general, that wrestling is coming back here, and a big thing for Elevate as well. So the Paul Noel Gym in Chalmette, July 24th. Everybody should come down and check it out. It's going to be a great show. I think any kind of homecoming show is always, the atmosphere is going to be great. Everybody's going to be so pumped for it, so you're going to see a lot of energy there. So yeah, 100% that. I don't know what to promote like about myself though. That's like, no one's ever asked me something like that before. I'm like, oh, I'm really bad at doing things like that.
Oh, I understand. That's totally me. I can promote everybody but myself. So I'm like, I can do something for somebody else, not me. It's really hard for me to do that. So totally understand.
Well, does it have to be wrestling, or can it be anything?
Anything you're going to promote.
Okay, well, so how I told you that I have a billion hobbies. Everyone should first of all check out Red Stick Roller Derby as well. Roller derby isn't kind of back with COVID at the moment, but hopefully next year. So, but everyone should wear like a great team, so everyone should check us out. We were ranked 62 in the world, which is a big thing, like across the world for our little team in Baton Rouge to be ranked like that in the world rankings is great. So hopefully roller derby will be back soon in Louisiana or in America. It's not happening anywhere in America. And everyone can come and check us out. I also do, one of my other hobbies, I do a lot of like cosplay stuff. And I used to have a jewelry business, but I actually make like head crowns and headgear and stuff like that. So I started that like a couple of months ago, and everyone should check out my business. It's called Crowning Glory Studios. Or studio, I think. I have a Facebook, Instagram page, and an Etsy store, so I can let you have those links. But I love doing custom orders. I love Ren fairs. I love costuming, cosplay, anything like that. So I make stuff for that. And I've had about like, I don't know, 6 or 7 custom orders so far, and I really enjoy doing those. That's a lot of fun. I actually made the crown that Amorous Blair wore for her last match with the crystals and stuff like that. So I made that. So everyone should check that out and buy things from me. That would be great.
Yes, I will have all the links in the description. So definitely follow on social media, share with your friends, buy something, support. Everybody can use some support, especially during, everybody's getting back into the swing of things.
Always support local artists or local anything, local derby, local wrestling, local artists. Always buy local, shop local, support local. That is always my motto, 100%.
100% agree. 100% agree. So I want to thank you so much, Alexis, for joining me today. This was a really, really fun interview. Thank you so much.
I love chatting. Thank you. I love talking.
It's all good. I love that you love to talk. It makes interviews so much fun when people can go back and forth with me.
It's funny because I've never done a podcast before. So I was like, well, what's it going to be like? And they said, would you like talking? I was like, yes. They were like, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay.
So once again, I will have all the links in the description. Please support, please share, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye for now.
Bye.